Hello and thank you for watching the John Doe Prepper channel. I am your host John A. Whitman, and in today's video I'm going to be doing the very first home brewing project on this channel. I'm going to be taking what little remains of my beet harvest that is not spoiled and turn it into a very small quantity of Beetroot Kvass, both just to use these up and also to test if I actually like Beetroot Kvass, so then next year I can grow an even bigger harvest and brew a much larger quantity of it. So this recipe is fairly simple, all things considered. You literally just need beetroots of your choice. They don't necessarily have to be red beetroots like these ones are. Clean room temperature water and a little bit of salt, and that's literally it. And what you end up with after only 48 hours of fermentation is a very healthy probiotic drink full of nutrients and enzymes that are very good for your liver and blood pressure, from what I understand. Also, just a quick note, because this is a fermented beverage, there may be trace amounts of alcohol in the finished drink, which, depending on your jurisdiction, may or may not make this an alcoholic beverage. So if that is the case in your jurisdiction and you are not of age to consume alcohol, then you probably shouldn't do this unless your jurisdiction allows for you to do so with your parents' permission. But with that all being said, let's dive right into the preparation of this recipe and the fermentation process. I hope you enjoy. So I've already washed my beets off camera. As you can see, these are a little bit small, and so consequently I'm using a fairly small vessel for the actual fermentation. But the first thing I'm going to do is dice my beets, although they are quite small so they don't need that much dicing. But the first thing I do is cut off where the greens were, and then just cut off that little root tail at the bottom. I do the same to the other one here, like so. Obviously, the fresher the beets are that you're using for this, the better. And these ones I literally just pulled out of the ground not even 5 minutes ago. Now you're going to want to cut these into cubes, or in this case, because these are so small, I'm basically just going to cut them into quarters and call it good there. But if you were working with larger roots, you would want to cut them into cubes roughly the size of dice. But again, because these are so small, as soon as I quarter them, that's not much bigger than a typical 6-sided die anyway. So I'm just gonna leave it at that. Ideally, I would have maybe 1 or 2 more beetroots of this size for this size of container, but this is kind of all I got. So from here, this is obviously a clean container, by the way. Make sure your container is clean because you do not want rogue bacteria in this, because we are going to be fermenting it at room temperature for 48 hours. So again, this is kind of a pitiful quantity of beetroots. Ideally, you'd fill the container most of the way up, and then you would add just enough room temperature water to cover them all. But because I want to actually have enough of this to try, I'm going to bend the rules a little bit and just fill this up all the way. I have some room temperature water, in this case bottled water. I'm just going to add water to the jar to about there. You don't want to fill this all the way up to the top because this may fizz a little bit as it is fermenting. Now the only other thing you really need to add to this is a little bit of salt. And from what I understand, this isn't really meant to aid in the fermentation process at all. It is literally just there to add a little bit of saltiness to the flavor profile so that it doesn't literally just taste like fermented beets and nothing else. So the exact quantity, at least from my layman's understanding, is not the most important detail in the world. So I'm just gonna add, I think that's 5 or 6 pinches worth of salt, just regular old table salt. And then literally all I have to do now is put the lid on this and let it sit in a room temperature place out of direct sunlight for 48 hours. Keep in mind though, as with all fermented and fermenting beverages, this will release a little bit of CO2. So in a perfect world, you would put this in a container with an airlock on top. But as an alternative, you can either put the lid on all the way and just burp it every so often, or just leave the lid on a little loose. Or you can do it old school and put a piece of cloth over the top of this and tie it over the top and just let it basically ferment in the open air. In my case, I am going to opt for just leaving the lid on a little bit loose. And the reason you do something to cover this is basically to keep, obviously, dust, but also things like insects out of the beverage. Alright, so it has been 24 hours, roughly, since the start of the fermentation process. You can see the kvass is significantly darker now, and we have little bubbles forming on the surface, which is a good sign. That means that fermentation is indeed occurring. So we are now halfway through the fermentation. We got another 24 hours to go, but things are looking good. All right, ladies and germs, it has been roughly 48 hours. As you can see, there are even more bubbles on the surface now, which is good. That is a good sign that the fermentation continued overnight. You can see, once again, this is much darker of a solution than when I first put it down here. And if I very carefully remove the lid, take a little sniff here, and it literally just smells like beets. That's it. Just a little sweet, little earthy, and that's what you want. If you get any sort of foul smells, any sort of weird odors coming from this, then it is probably not safe to drink. Likewise, you still want this to be a clear beet colored solution. You don't obviously want any mold up top or anything like this. These little bubbles are fine. That's good. That's what you want to happen. But if you see anything, any color other than this beet purple, that is not good. And you should probably throw it out. But this looks like it went just fine. This is going to be a little bit weaker than would be typical because I just didn't have enough beets to fill it up as high as you should, based on what I've seen, but it should still contain all of the same probiotics and enzymes and such. So from here, I'm going to just pop this in the fridge to stop any further fermentation, and then in about 30 to 60 minutes, I will come back and try a little bit. All right, I have dispensed a small amount of my beetroot kvass into this little glass here. I'm only doing a little bit because I may very well end up not liking it all that much, but let's just jump right into it. This is gonna look weird because, you know, trying not to dox myself here, but I mean, might be kind of an underwhelming, result, but kind of just tastes like beets. You know, maybe I could have let it ferment a little bit more, but it literally just kind of tastes like beets, and that's it. Now, of course, as I said, this is a little bit weaker than a typical beetroot kvass would be, just because I didn't have all that many beets to dice and put in there, but I would expect it wouldn't taste much different even with more beets in it. It smells very, very strongly of beets as well. I do taste the salt in there as well, so it kind of just tastes like salty beet water. But I would say without the salt in there, it probably wouldn't have much going for it. So I can see why that is part of the recipe. Let me just try another little. Honestly, yeah, I'm getting more salt than I am beet flavor from this. It's not bad, right? Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying I don't like it. It's just that there's not much going on there. But like I said, that could be just that I didn't have enough beets in there. It could also just be a combination of maybe it would have been in my best interest to let it ferment a little bit more, but all things being said, I would say it's not great, but it's not bad. Like I could sit at my computer and watch YouTube and drink a glass of this and not think much of it either way. But as kind of anticlimactic as that result was, obviously, as I kind of briefly mentioned earlier in the video, there are health benefits to drinking this. So I will finish it off, and then maybe next year, or maybe even later this year, because you'd actually grow and harvest beets quite late into fall from what I understand. Maybe I will grow more and try to make more of this with a higher concentration of beets, maybe add some other spices in there. I believe it's in India and Pakistan. They have a drink similar to this that basically starts out as Beetroot Kvass, but then they add like carrots and a bunch of spices to it. Apparently it's pretty good. But I believe that's just about everything I have to say in this video. So if you enjoyed it, consider liking the video and leaving a comment for the YouTube algorithm. Consider subscribing to my channel if you are so inclined, and if you'd like to deal with me and my craziness 24/7, check out the link to my Discord server that is in the About Me section on my channel page. I got nothing else for you guys. Thanks again for watching. I am John A. Whitman of the John Doe Prepper channel, and I will catch you in the next video. Bye.